Welcome back to the Two Promises Podcast. Let's dive right into another exciting adventure with BD and crew as he pursues his new passion of one day finding the most epic bourbon. The Two Promises team send their special thanks to Hobie and the Huckleberries for their masterful theme music. Grab a glass, relax, and enjoy responsibly.
Baby says she's leaving if I don't stop drinking wine. So I switched to whiskey, now I'm feeling fine. Drinking that smooth, smooth whiskey. No more wine. I like straight bourbon. Baby, you try the ride.
Welcome back, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to another episode, and I am so excited to introduce our special guest. As you know, we've been highlighting a lot of the lady bosses and the powerful women that are influencing different sectors and their industries in very powerful ways. And I am excited to introduce my cousin, Dee Ann, and really I want to focus a little bit more on her kind of telling a little bit about her life, her career, and her passions. And I'd just like to turn it over to her now because I think she'll be able to do a way better introduction for all of the, accolades and professional accomplishments and the many things that she's done throughout her career. So it's just much better. She kind of speaks to that. So I'd like to turn it over to you.
Well, thanks, Brent. I'm glad to be here with you. And it's just so good to get to spend some time with you and to visit. So I've just been so blessed in my career. So I've been in education now for, I think this is my 34th year.
Wow.
So I taught school for several years, second, third grade, middle school, English language arts, that kind of thing. And then I was an assistant principal of a middle school, K-3 principal of a school. And then the last decade, I was a district office administrator, the director of curriculum and instruction and assessments. So I've done those kinds of things. I was the first person in our family, and like mom and dad and my sisters and stuff, to actually get a 4-year degree.
Wow.
So I still remember,
trailblazing there.
well, maybe, but I know my great uncles and aunts, some of them actually went to Carbondale, but you could get a teaching degree then and go for 2 years. Excellent. And that was a big deal for them. There weren't interstates, and all that stuff. Yeah. But in terms of the 4-year degree, I was the first person to do that in my,
awesome.
Immediate family. So
excellent. Even whenever I was going to community college, I went to Rend Lake before I joined the military. And I'm saying this is what 2004,
probably.
But even still, there was people who, I can't wait to graduate college. I'm ready to finish my 2-year degree. Oh, why is that? Oh, so I don't have to drive on the interstate anymore because it freaks me out and I'm scared. So
yeah, it's a big difference.
Exactly. Huh? Yeah. And so just saying hey, they didn't even have interstates then. It's well, now fast forward a little bit. We have interstates, but there's still some of those.
They don't want to go for that. So, that's funny.
But so your passion's been a lot of education, mentorship. That's been a lot of your life.
It really has been. I've just been so blessed throughout my life to have people who've invested in me and who believed in me when I didn't maybe believe in myself.
That's huge.
And there's just always been someone along the way, whether it was my family members, and it was always my family members. But then there were other people along the way too that kind of would step up to the plate. Mm-hmm. Maybe somebody who'd been where I was.
Yeah. In those times, did you recognize it, do you think? Or
I don't know that I always recognized it. I think I thought everybody had that, and it was just part of what you have. So I think I thought everybody had that kind of support.
Oh, I understand. Yes. Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
I guess I thought everybody had that support, but when I actually got out a little bit further into the world and realized not everyone has that kind of support, and then when I realized that, I think I always appreciated it.
Yeah.
But it meant even more to me then.
Yeah. And I think sometimes that's something that I struggle with kind of remembering. And my buddy Big Patrick, who kind of helped me kind of get started with this, he always had a line that was, well, nobody taught him or her. It's well, yeah, maybe they are behaving that way in society, and we might think that it's rude or inconsiderate or not becoming of how someone should behave or act, but likely could be that no one taught them.
Oh, and that's a great point, because it's one of the things that when I was working with our new teachers, and I would have a monthly meeting with them, an all-day orientation, but I would talk to them about, hey, there are going to be times that you're going to have a parent that's going to be unhappy with you. They're going to be angry, and they may yell at you and call you a name that you're not comfortable with. But try really hard not to take it personally, because it may be the only way they know how to communicate. And you still have something in common. Their greatest asset that they're sharing with you, their child, is you both have their best interest at heart, and never forget that.
Absolutely.
And just try not to take that personally, because you're right.
Yeah.
People may not know how.
Excellent. I love that technique that you kind of gave. And then one thing that I'd like to just kind of touch on that's just kind of like another layer around that, just to kind of excavate that,
Sure,
to bring it into
absolutely.
light, just to kind of look at the side profile, is from a leadership perspective, a managerial perspective, whenever you are equipping and training the people to work in whatever role they're working, one, giving the physical tools are important, but what you did there was you psychologically fortified their mindset.
Yes.
You prep them in advance for a struggle, a psychological barrier that they are likely to encounter,
Yes.
and you gave them a tool at the same time to practice, to think about, to whatever. So that was like a multifaceted approach that you did that you probably do naturally, but I don't know that everyone else, just from hearing that conversation, might
true.
not have picked up on that. And since this is a very mindset-based,
Sure.
psychological
we did that
resilience.
with our kids growing up. We would say to them, okay, it's not a matter of if you're going to be confronted with drugs or alcohol or some kind of thing that's not how we raised you, and you're not old enough to make that decision anyway.
Right.
So we're like, so what are you need to prepare yourself for that. And so
Correct.
what are you going to say when you're confronted with that? And what's your exit plan going to be? Mm-hmm. And so we would actually make them practice that.
And that's,
And,
yeah.
and, and not to say that they didn't ever have any kind of challenges or anything, but we felt like we needed to equip them for the inevitable. And so I felt like that was an important thing to do with the teachers that I was working with. And now I retired, quote unquote, last summer from my job. And now I'm working for a university part-time. Mm-hmm. And so now I'm working with student teachers.
Oh, excellent.
Which is so much fun.
Still
because
in the
it's
mentorship, still in the, yeah.
And these are the kinds of discussions we're having.
And now you're at collegiate level kind of.
My title is like assistant professor of practice.
Okay.
So I'm working with undergraduate students right now.
Okay, excellent.
But we're having those discussions. Again, just at a different level. That
Yes.
you don't have to know it all, but you do need to continually work on your professional development and be thinking about the practice that you have and asking questions and not taking things personally and realizing there's always room for growth, So
Absolutely.
it's just more of that Carol Dweck mindset kind of thing, the growth mindset that you need to be a lifelong learner, surrounding yourself with those positive things, growing, being careful about who you listen to for advice.
Absolutely.
All of those kinds of things. But
Yes.
it's really fun. I try not to preach it,
Yeah.
but I really do try to teach it.
Teach it. Excellent.
But I'm very thankful for those opportunities.
Absolutely. And so one of the kind of pieces that you touched on was how you would practice with your kids. So we would call it maybe like a dry run or a rehearsal, and then that's just to kind of get our everything working together, get our bodies working together, our communications drills, everything, so that we've already practiced it, we've already rehearsed it. Then another thing that we do occasionally, and that's the thing that everybody gets all excited about, is like the hood drills.
Oh, wow.
Where they'll put a hood on you, and then they'll just pull it off, and they'll have a scene in front of you, and you just have to split second respond to whatever that might be.
Wow.
So again, it's just like a rehearsal aspect of, you're going to be put in these situations, you're going to be uncomfortable, your physiology is going to put you in that fight or flight state. So whenever you've practiced saying the words or going through the mechanics, you have confidence, it's easy, you're not as surprised.
Exactly. Because you've already thought about this as a possibility.
Yeah. And I mean, and that's the craziest thing. It's like the simplest things are what works. And a lot of times it's like the basics are what save lives and make the difference. But they're also, they're not fun to practice over and over again.
No, they're not fun.
They're not fun to drills.
And my kids would roll their eyes. Oh, Mom, please, really? No. Seriously, we have to talk about these things. You
Absolutely.
know, I don't want to talk about it,
Well,
but we did.
That's great. And
So.
I mean, really, like, that is, like, the family is such a foundational unit of society. And so with it being fractured just through different things, I think it's very important that, one, thank you for living that. Thank you for, showing that way. And then, two, thanks for sharing with us so that we can hear some of those things that have helped you and, brought you so much success.
Well, you're welcome, and thank you for letting me be here. It's just so much fun.
Absolutely. So we've heard about your passion for mentorship and education. Is there any other passions that you'd like to share? Because, like, again, I'm just kind of coming back, getting to know friends, family.
Well, I love music.
Music.
There's so much. I love to sing. I love to play the piano. And I love all kinds of music. I just think there's so much passion, and it just takes me to a different place.
Totally agree.
And I love it. I love rodeo. I love agriculture.
Oh, it's so fun.
Yeah. I grew up on the farm, and I think that's another piece of that grit and mindset. I'm the eldest of 4 girls. Wow. And my poor dad, no sons, and that may not sound good, especially in our current day when we talk about gender and all of that. But, I'm 56, and so that was a thing, but my dad never treated me differently. He was like, get up. We're getting up. It's like 5 a.m. He put me on the big tractor, and I disc the fields, and I'd run to town for parts, and I'd help load soybeans or seed corn. I'd help with the banding of the cattle or the castration of the hogs. And I'm just so thankful to have had those life experiences, and that my dad and my grandparents didn't stop me because I was a girl. No, you can work just as hard.
I love it.
You can do it. And I think their trust and belief in me, allowing me to do, these are big machines that were valuable, to trust me to do that, it was huge.
And how does that build your confidence whenever you move into any of the other?
Absolutely. You just think, well, if I could do that, I can do this. I mean, it's different, but I can figure it out.
Absolutely.
I've been given these skills. I can think, and I know how to ask for help.
Absolutely.
So I can absolutely ask.
And I think, for me sometimes, and the whole guy's like asking for directions on all that kind of stuff, like all those things, but it's just like, it's so important for us to be like, okay, cool. Can I do this on my own? Yeah, maybe not. But, like, what's it hurt anybody to ask?
Right,
you know what I mean?
exactly.
Like, I might as well ask. If you don't, as my buddy Ryan says, if you don't ASK, you don't GET.
I like that. I like it. And it's true. And the thing is, the more I learn about leadership, the more I learn about education, the more I learn about ministry, or any other thing that I'm really interested in, the more I realize what I don't know and how much more there is to learn. And so, just a family story, and my great Aunt Fern, who was at the other side of your family, so you're not really related to her, but she was in her 90s living with your great uncle, Lloyd, and she was reading her Bible, and I'm like, Aunt Fern, don't you ever, watch the TV or anything, or read a Western or do something else? And she was like, well, yeah, I do, but she says, I really like just kind of digging into the Word. She said, whether you're 5 or you're 95 like I am, she said, there's always something new to learn. And I just love that, just that here she is. She still didn't know it all, even at 95, and she could talk circles around me on any of that stuff, but she was still learning and growing. And I think having those kinds of examples have really been powerful for me.
Yes, that is so awesome. And she was consistent with it.
Oh yeah.
And there was always new truths to uncover, new things. And one thing that I've kind of noticed is, one, discovering new truths and always learning more, but also revisiting lessons and kind of saying, oh yeah, I need to shore myself up there. I need to reinforce this area.
Yes.
I haven't completely forgotten it, but it's definitely not looking where it needs to.
And we think we have it at one point, but then as we have more experience, we can always revisit. I'm like, there's still so much more to learn there.
Yeah, or I can refine that a little bit better.
Absolutely.
And I just want to kind of circle back to what we were talking about, is that asking, and that how sometimes we have that hesitancy to ask, right? But whenever we were talking about how you kind of empowered your children to respond well in those stressful situations, if you're one of those people that might be more introverted, just practicing asking in a friendly environment
Yes.
and where you would normally maybe not ask for something. And even if the answer is no, it's a friend or it's someone close that you know you're not in
Yes.
danger of, but just that act of doing
Yes.
when you're feeling uncomfortable, you don't think about it at the time, but enough of the little baby steps that you need to just keep, all those baby steps are going to add up to big steps.
That's
if you
true.
just keep doing
That's
it.
true.
So
That's very true. And we have one extrovert for a child and one introvert for a child. And, and I can say it was a lot easier with one than the other in terms of having those discussions. But it was powerful and it was beneficial. So you're absolutely right about that.
that's so excellent. Is there anything else that you want to share about maybe raising two different children with different personality things? Or would you like to move into maybe some of the legacy?
No, sure, we can move into whatever it's just been a blessing for us to have, two very unique, different, gifted.
And very talented.
And it's just been a real blessing for us.
A lot of it in the music as well, right?
Yeah, my son is just gifted, and I'm amazed with that. And he's our introvert, but he's really enjoying it. I mean, I think this has been a hard season.
What's his kind of niche, or where you?
He plays guitar and
Okay.
drums, and right now he's just playing a lot at home, and just enjoying that and refining and refining.
And sometimes just for me, I'm not a musician myself, but it's always part of myself that I've wanted to kind of express. I enjoy music, I love music, and as you've kind of heard, my relationship with it, but I'm trying to get into the harmonic. I really want to learn an instrument. I feel like it's something that is part of growth and like well-roundedness. I just feel like for me personally, being able to play an instrument is something I'd like to do in my life. And since I'm kind of traveling a lot, the harmonic has been one that I've been able to kind of carry with me, and I haven't always been as consistent of actually doing it. But it's
so soulful.
So true. And so this year I've gotten back to it a little bit.
Good.
So I'm really excited. So it's so cool to hear that and again, it's, even if I'm not playing a song, but just the act of playing is therapeutic.
Sure it is. It's an expression.
Absolutely.
And it's powerful. That's for sure.
I love it. So you've had a huge career in education. You have mentioned ministry. You've mentioned your children. So where do you kind of feel like that what are your feelings on legacy, first of all? Like, do you have thoughts on legacy? Is there...
Yeah, I do. I have a lot of thought on legacy. And especially as I reach this age, which is not old, but yet I remember thinking when people were in their 50s that, gosh, they're so old. But, there are people that I know now that are dying, or they'll have cancer, or something else will happen. And it's like, it really kind of smacks you in the face that you think about, I'm going to keep planning and I'm going to keep living, and I'm not afraid of that. But what legacy am I leaving? Mm-hmm. What am I leaving behind? That's not just finances or land or a home, but have I laid a foundation that's strong and deep that can last for more than just one generation? So I like to think a lot about my spiritual legacy that I'm leaving behind, so have I lived a life that, I'm human, and so I mess up, I fail, but that's just part of it.
That's the experience.
That's just the experience, it's how we learn and we grow. Yeah. But I really do hope that I'm leaving that spiritual legacy. So the ministry work that I do, I hope that I'm helping women to embrace their story, whatever that is, and that the past is the past. We learn and we grow from it, but we don't have to stay there. That we can move forward and we can break some of the chains that maybe we've had in our life, and we move forward and we can leave this legacy behind of forgiveness, of strength of character, of a relationship with God and relationship with others. And then in terms of like education, I don't think they're ever going to name a building after me or anything like that. But I really hope that the people that I work with and that I support, that they're better after I leave the room. And what I mean by that is that they've been encouraged by me, that they realize that they are doing important work, that they're doing great work, and they're capable. And then the other piece of that I've been working on a lot with people in terms of, it really is a legacy piece. It's this taking care of ourselves. Because about 12 years ago, I was in the principal role, and it was a Halloween weekend. I know I was headed to my sister's house, but I thought maybe I was having a heart attack. And it wound up in the emergency room. I didn't call anyone because I was actually that afraid. Wow. And I just went on, and the doctor came out.
So you drove yourself in?
I drove myself in.
With a potential heart attack?
I just didn't know. And I felt horrible. And anyway, I went in. They did the test, and the doctor came in. He's like, good news and bad news. Which do you want first? I didn't even care at that point. He just said, you're not having a heart attack. But
which is good news.
That's really good news. He goes, but you are stressed out, and you're going to have to change some things so that you don't have a heart attack.
Yeah.
And so some of the work that I've been doing lately is talking to superintendents. Just last week, I spoke to women in leadership about the act of self-care. And it's not just about just the physical piece. But it is part of that. That is part of it. But just like 8 different areas, whether it's spiritual, whether it's emotional, maybe it's financial, friends and family, maybe it's just an activity outside, something. But nutrition for me was a big one. I was drinking almost a 12-pack of Diet Cokes a day. I wasn't having any water.
Wow.
And I wasn't eating lunch. So I would grab like goldfish. You know, and I would joke that it was my protein, you know, because the fish is a protein. But, no, in fact, they're just carbs and sugar. And then at that time, there was a bunch of candy corn, you know, laying around. I grab a handful of that and go on my, you know, walk the hallway to go to a different classroom. And I'm like, I've got my vegetables, you know, I've got my corn.
Yeah, my corn.
No, I don't. And so it's no wonder I was in the mess that I was in. I wasn't sleeping well. I just wasn't taking care of myself. And so one of the pieces of legacy is that I've been trying to talk to leaders and, you know, educational leaders about this thing called self-care, that it's not selfish, that it looks different for everybody. We're all in different seasons. Yeah. But they may or may not name a building after you. When you retire, you don't have a title. You don't take that with you, and that's okay. Yeah. But you're still going to be a mom or a dad or an uncle or an aunt or a friend. Yeah. And, you know, what you make sure that you're taking care of yourself so you can leave that legacy. Yeah. And so I think that's a really important piece too.
Yeah. So I kind of think, if you don't mind me just kind of summarizing what I think I'm catching from there, is that for you, almost that legacy piece is, yes, it's that passing the torch or giving them the training and the education so that they're prepared and they're ready. But then also it kind of moves into the self-care piece where it's more of the feeling that you're transferring and leaving behind in the lives and the relationships that you interact with being, in your mind, equally important, if not more important, than like the monuments and the accolades and like this is a building named after you in your honor.
They're tearing down monuments every day. Right. And I've worked in so many schools that were named after someone, and we call it that building, and I'm sure that was an amazing person who would never receive that accolade, but that didn't really mean anything to me. Like, but what meant something to me were the people that invested time in me. Right. And taught me things. And told me things I needed to hear even when I didn't want to hear them, but helped me grow. And super so powerful. I hope I'm that kind of person that I'm not just telling you what you want to hear, but I'm supporting you and helping you figure out some hard things, that it's not about me, but it helps you live the kind of life that you want to live. Absolutely. So that you can live the legacy that you need to leave for your family and your friends. Yeah, and being, honest with yourself that you need to take that step back, take care of yourself so that you are mentally engaged and primed to honor all of those relationships. Yeah. When we let this go, we're letting our ability to work closely with those direct relationships that we want to foster all those good feelings. But you have to plan for that. And intentionality. Intentionality, yeah. I mean, for me, if one of these, for me, it's like I know nutrition, water, making sure I'm getting my yearly checkups and my 6-month checkups that I have to have now that I'm at 56. Spiritually, for me, that's an important component. And rest, and then water. And I know a lot of those are in the same categories, but for me, when those pieces are out of whack, I'm out of whack. Yeah. And so if I
Absolutely.
can pull those pieces together, I feel better and I'm a better person to be around.
Excellent.
But-
And these are different for each person. So if
they're-
you don't
yeah,
know
so that
that's
may
for
not
yours,
work for
just
you.
yeah. So I just encourage you, if you don't have that where you feel that, like start trying around, play around with some variables and find those for you, because
Absolutely.
you're going to find so much more peace just by being able to
Absolutely.
find those things you
Yeah.
need to balance. So
Yeah.
thanks for sharing that. One thing I would like to circle back to, if you don't mind,
Not at
and
all.
it falls kind of in your passions and legacy. And you said that one of the big passions. So we're highlighting lady bosses here. We're highlighting all of our women leaders all over the industries. And you said part of your stuff is women's empowerment. It might have been at a ministry or at some type of group. You said you're very involved in a women's empowerment thing. For competence, I think, or some type of. Would you mind walking me through
Sure.
kind of what that would look like
Sure.
to kind of get a better idea?
So I'm not. All right. So several different pieces. So in terms of women's ministry, the work that I do, or I wouldn't even call it work, but just the support maybe that I provide.
Okay.
Does that make?
Yes.
To me, there's
So
a different.
You're a pastor's wife, correct?
I am.
Okay.
Yeah, I am.
So you're supporting your
So-
husband, the leader of a congregation, and then now
and then
you're
the women in the church, and then I'm also invited to speak or help lead worship and those kinds of things. So part of that mindset is just because I think there's a lot of shame sometimes that people bring with them, especially in their walk with Christ. And part of the thing that I want to tell them is that, well, we're all human. We're all going to make mistakes. And so
Yeah.
part of this is just our mindset and growing and that encouragement and empowering them to embrace that story that they have, but then to use that and then to move forward, that past doesn't have to define them.
Yes.
So that's part of that mental piece
Got
of
it.
empowerment.
Absolutely.
And then in terms of like education and the work that I do there, it is sometimes people just don't have a lot of confidence for whatever reason. And I've been there too.
Absolutely.
And
sometimes it's just like you don't feel confident that day because of whatever,
for whatever
even if you're a
happened.
confident person.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because just life happens and that's just part of it. So the other part is just giving them some skills and reminding them that they are an expert, that they can make good decisions, and just giving them support that they need so that they can make the next best step in their career or in life, but empowering them to not have to have permission
That's
from
awesome.
someone else
To
do
live
that.
what they found is that they believe in, that's their next passion, that's their story, that's their
Yes.
next ridgeline, their next
Yeah.
movement.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so no one else in your family has a degree and they don't really want you to go because they're afraid they're going to lose you. Okay, well let's talk about that a little bit. So what do you want to do? How could you still show your family that you value and support them, but still make the next step toward the goal that you want to make because you want to be a difference maker in your field, whatever that is.
Absolutely.
So just trying to, it's usually people that are a little bit younger than me that I work with sometimes, but sometimes it's some people who are older that just want to know, how did you do this?
Yeah. Do you have a fulfilling example that you might be able to share of just like maybe someone that you were able to help kind of give confidence and then they just, whoa, that was so awesome to see you do that?
Well, I don't know that I did anything, but I had someone call me, and I won't name this person, but they called and they were like, hey, can we just talk? Because I don't know how you do what you do. They were like, you came into my classroom and you talked to me, but you didn't talk to me about work. You asked me about my daughter. How did you do that? How did you remember that?
Yeah.
And so we had a few pretty big discussions. We met for lunch. We did some things like that. And I just talked to her about what I did and that the relationship building was so important.
Absolutely.
And that sometimes I was not as great with the relationship building because I didn't want to, people are busy and I didn't want to feel like I didn't want to burden them or take them off task. But when I came through and did my walkthrough, I wanted her to know I thought of her more than just her role.
Absolutely.
And then I encouraged her, go back to school and get your admin degree. Go back and get your administrative degree. And if I can support you, I will. And so I walked through her part of the way with some of those things. And so she is well on her way now in her career as she's moving forward.
Awesome.
So I just try to encourage people.
So one thing that you've kind of noticed just throughout our conversation that I just like to kind of highlight, I think you've touched on it 2, maybe even 3 times, that you just do, and I'm just going to call it a different word, but speaking greatness. I've heard it in like just like some type of like, I don't know, seminar or whatever, but
Sure.
speaking greatness. And you do that whenever you're saying that, oh, she values this education. She has maybe a small obstacle, maybe something, a mental setback, but with just a little bit of encouragement or just the right environment or just the right little nudge, you could help really accelerate her life. And a lot of times it's just by speaking the greatness that the individual already has within them. You're just seeing it, identifying it, bringing it to their attention.
I'm not doing anything.
Correct. You're bringing it to their attention maybe in a way that they just don't see, like a different frame,
But
a different
people
angle.
did that to me. And I'm sure people have done that to you, Brent. I remember at the old Walmart in Mount Vernon where Hobby Lobby is now, my old clinical supervisor from SIU stopping me. Are you going back and getting your master's degree? Well, I don't think so, because I just didn't think I was smart enough. You know, he's like,
You're
oh,
brilliant.
You need to go back and get your master's degree. Well, okay. Well, that sparked this, oh, maybe he thinks I can, maybe I can.
Yeah.
You know, and so
then that's
I
almost-
want to do that for people.
And-
I want to do that.
For real. And if like
It
you're
doesn't cost
listening
me
to this,
anything.
no, and it's not even, it doesn't cost anything. It's just paying a little bit more attention, seeing a little thing,
And
and
it's
then
not
just
sucking up.
No.
It's not me asking for something from them.
No.
It's not that I don't even care if they remember who it was that asked them that.
So true.
I don't care.
yeah,
But I just, if I see it, I feel like I need to say it.
yeah. And I mean, I think that's just like such a great habit to get into if we were just talking about some of those other little things where like just by asking can kind of build your confidence. Same
Right.
thing. Just by like seeing that greatness, speaking that greatness, then it just becomes natural, and then there's just so much more positivity and so many more people that feel more confident about going after those things that they care
Sure,
about, which
sure.
just builds all of us up collectively.
True. And here's the other thing. I think I have seen this. I have seen some leaders who want all the credit. And they wanna push you
navigate.
down.
Yeah.
But to me, I don't want that kind of responsibility. I don't want all the credit. Because if I get all the credit, I get all the criticism.
True.
And
A lot of times people see the top position, but they don't see all the
no,
BS
no,
that
and
those
there's a
people
lot of
have
it.
to deal
and
with.
there's a lot of it there that you would never believe. Well, you would believe, but it's so. But I just think, and there are some people that I've met through the years, not very many, but there are some that were like, well, I don't know how to do that, but I would never tell anyone I didn't know how to do it. And I'm kind of the opposite, and maybe that's hurt me in some ways, but I don't think it has. If I don't know, I just ask.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I don't know it all,
Yeah.
and I never will. But I'm certainly not going to know if I don't ask.
True.
So I don't know. It's just that kind of thing. But it really fires me up to get to support people.
That's awesome.
And encourage
so
them.
Having the humility to ask and then just getting motivated by support, encouragement,
Yeah.
and seeing those lights go on. That's so awesome. Another thing that I just kind of want to like touch on is you just mentioned kind of like leaders who might be trying to push you down. Sometimes leaders just might have been brought up in a certain way of leadership style,
It's
and
a
they don't know any
mindset.
difference in
That's
mindset.
right.
And so sometimes they're trying to unlearn bad habits, or they don't even know they have bad habits, but it could still generate toxicity. And that's kind of a big central theme of mine, is just trying to like fight toxicity, eliminate toxicity,
right.
try to identify root causes, and fortify against it. So
And that's challenging.
it's super challenging.
Because sometimes, and I've been very blessed in my family, but sometimes the toxicity is from people that we've had this really close relationship with.
Yeah.
But anyway,
And that's
another
what's
story.
tough. And sometimes there's toxicity in very close, intimate, familial relationships.
Absolutely.
And that is, maybe we could talk about that in another episode. I think that'd be awesome. But kind of just to segue in, talking about a little bit of toxicity, leaders who kind of like keep people down, whether it's intentional or unintentional. And so I just kind of want to touch on the topic of glass ceilings. Doesn't necessarily have to do with like
Sure.
leadership or anything like that, but you have a lot of experience. You're an educator. You have been in mentorship and been mentored for a considerable amount of time. So the amount of experience you have is very considerable. So I would just love to hear, for ourselves, for our listeners, it could be on any glass ceiling that
Okay.
you feel you've maybe encountered or seen, and just share with us kind of what you saw.
Okay, so I think for me, there have been times in my life that I've never thought I was smart enough, talented enough, pretty enough, thin enough, and I don't even know where that came from because I have had a very supportive family. But when, I said that this former professor of mine, have you thought about getting your master's degree? No. Well, so I got that master's degree. Then I went back and got another equivalent to master's degree, got my administrative certification. I went back again and got my superintendent's endorsement, which I never used, but I had it.
You have it,
and
yeah.
I had the training.
Absolutely.
Which was so important.
Yeah.
Well, then I get to the district office position.
And you can communicate to so many different areas
True.
because you've had that training. And sometimes even within the same industry, the jargon or the stuff is just enough that even the people in that industry don't speak the same language enough to really communicate efficiently.
That's true. We used to say we're going to be acronym free in 2023, but I'm not sure that's going to happen in education, okay? But the glass ceiling for me, I guess, would be that I only knew one other woman that had a PhD.
Okay.
And I have to say she was a huge encouragement to me.
Okay, that's
I
excellent.
loved her. But I never considered going back and getting my PhD because, again, those mindsets,
Yeah.
not sure I'm smart enough, even though
And
here
there was
I am.
you only had one example.
I had
You
one
only had
example.
one thing to look
I
to
only
to
had
say
one example.
that's only one person that I know that's done it. That's
Yeah.
knowing all the people that I know. Those aren't great odds. No, and I know,
I
and I'm not.
know.
And even though you don't think about that,
Right.
that's still a
And I'm
subconscious.
like, well, I'm the first person to get a 4-year degree in my family. Well, I don't know.
but you
I
have like
had-
8 masters.
But I don't have that
I
many.
know.
But I had a superintendent and assistant soup who
Yeah.
came to me and they're like, hey, we think you need to get your PhD. It would really do us a favor if you got it.
Right.
Because they knew, if I'm going to do them a
Right.
favor.
Yeah, that's how some of my friends get me
I
too.
can do it,
Yeah.
you know? And so they made it possible for me. It was
That's
still
so awesome.
expensive. It was still a huge commitment.
Yeah.
But for me, that was a big deal. Now I know lots of people have them, but for me,
Yeah.
and now I'm so thankful for the people that encouraged me to do that. And now I
Absolutely.
encourage people.
Yeah.
Hey, have you thought about going back and getting your PhD? Have you thought about, but because it's possible. And my husband likes to say it was really a test of just tenacity.
Okay. Yeah. Do
And
you
I
want to
said,
go a little
"You're
bit more? on
right,
that?
you're right."
Tenacity for your.
To me just to finish.
Yeah.
Because I remember that first day, for me, it was driving to Indiana State, to Terre Haute, Indiana. They were an hour ahead of us. So every Tuesday night, I would leave home, kiss my kids and my husband goodbye. I would go to a cheap hotel room in Terre Haute and stay and study my stats and all that stuff. Be at school super early the next morning, be there all day, stay after class, work on statistics with a group of us,
Yeah.
and drive home, and then go back to work, And
Yeah.
I remembered thinking that first day, there were all of these talkers in there, and I'm sitting there thinking, why am I here? I can't even believe they accepted me in this program. Why am I here? These people have all these solutions and they're talking these big talks, and I'm like, I'm intimidated.
Yeah.
But who do you think got the work done and got the degree? There was a group of us that we were like, wow, that's really interesting, but we got to get the work done. And so we would stay and we would support each other and we would work. And some of us, we graduated with our PhD before some of those other people that did a lot of the talking,
That's awesome.
but maybe not the work.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's not meant to be detrimental to them because we're all different, But I just remember being so intimidated by the talk.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's just, okay, buckle down and do it anyway. And so my husband was like, you were tenacious.
Absolutely.
And you got it done.
Yeah. And I think that's just such a great way to put that, is just the steps that you take to climb the mountain in and of themselves aren't monumental, but when you add them together, it's the tenacity.
But you have
and
to take them.
Exactly. So it's like you got there quicker because you just buckled down and you supported each other. You had a good
I didn't
team.
do it
You
alone.
worked together.
That's right.
And all of those elements together is what kind of helped do it. The action was a central part, not just the talking.
Absolutely.
And that's something that I think frustrates me a lot of times is in large organizations sometimes there's a lot of meetings and there's a lot of meetings about meetings, and people get into that frustration zone of just, we're required to sit here and talk about things that if we had the time to do, there'd be a lot of these things checked off this list that we're just wading through.
Sure.
So I think that there's some of that going on. Those are some mental barriers that I have sometimes.
Sure.
So I guess I'll just...
I get it. And I've been guilty of holding some of those meetings because We had, it's like,
And
we have to
gotta
have
find
some
the
of
clarity
those.
and get.
But then
I
it's
don't
like,
think
okay, how
meetings
do
are
we-
unimportant, and I
No.
think it's important to have meetings regularly. You might not have to go into all the
But they
detail.
do need to be productive.
Correct.
Because if you could, especially today in the time of COVID, with our administrators and our teachers and our parents,
Barriers to
they're
communication.
so stressed.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, there are other ways to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's been one of the maybe blessings of this season, is realizing that, okay, just because we've always done something a certain way doesn't mean that it was necessarily bad, but it also doesn't mean that we have to continue to do it that way.
Correct. That is one silver lining that I would like to say I'm very grateful for, is if nothing else, it was a good pattern interrupt for everyone
Yes.
to analyze most everything in their life from a different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever they found there, I don't know, and it's not up to me to even
Sure.
know. But I think just that realization of everybody kind of having that little like, okay, what's important to me?
Right.
That I think is just very healthy for all of us as a whole. So in terms of silver linings, I think that's
I
a
do
powerful
too.
one.
It was powerful for me.
So
for sure.
same here. Yeah. So excellent. Well, thank you so much for sharing.
My pleasure. Thanks so much for letting me be a part of this.
Absolutely. So I just want to try to touch on that. So right now, I was almost going to segue out, but I just want to re-hit that. So glass ceiling for you was more mental.
Yes.
And it was that at the time, whenever you were originally kind of guided to take that next step,
Yes.
to conquer that next mountain or
Yes.
whatever, to move into an area of your own comfort for a good for you and others. So, but it wasn't an institutional glass ceiling. It wasn't an educational glass ceiling. It wasn't anything like that glass ceiling for you. You felt like that the glass ceiling that was the most prominent, or at least the one that you wanted to share, at least the one that you felt like
Right.
sharing,
Exactly.
was more, and I hate to use this word, but like a self-consciousness
It was.
ceiling. It's that
It was.
the self-doubt, which we all struggle with, negative self-talk, we all have.
Yes.
So I don't say we all struggle with, but I'd say we all have. And
I think we all have it.
So it's definitely something. So am I smart enough? Am I talented enough? And these are things that I, to this day, ask myself and struggle with to varying degrees.
Sure.
And just like, like some people say, like, how would that person ever not seem confident or not seem
Sure,
whatever?
sure.
But it's like, no, we're all human.
We are.
We all have these things, and then it's how did you respond to them? How did you let them shape you, form you, or did you see what I'm saying?
I do. So one of the things, this is a whole different story, and I won't go there on this podcast, but there was an event in our life, in our family's life, that happened that caused me some great grief at one time. And so I got some support during that time. And on a note card, I would write a lie. What's the lie that I'm telling myself? So maybe it was, I am not smart enough to get this degree. And that would be the lie, because that's not true. And on the other side of that, I would write truth.
I like that.
And I would write either a scripture or I've seen other people write just a quote, an inspirational quote
Yeah.
that worked for them. I always wrote a scripture. And then I wrote the truth. No, God designed you with a brain that functions well.
Yeah,
And you are smart.
absolutely.
And you are this and you are that.
I love
and
it.
I would carry that around in my purse for a week.
That's great.
And every time I'd have that negative thought, I'd pull it out and I'd replace it with this positive thought. So it was just doing some things like that
Yeah.
to say, no, are you willing to do the work? Yes, I'm willing to do the work. Is my family supporting me to do the work? Absolutely. They're shoving me out the door. They're glad I'm gone for a day.
Yeah,
You know what
right.
I mean? And they want that from me because they know support. So yeah, it was really more, I think we're all our own worst enemy sometimes.
Yeah.
And so that was that
Absolutely.
for me too.
Yeah, we're a lot of times our own
Other
worst
people
critic,
believed in
our own
me.
worst enemies. Yeah, we're our own barriers. We're our own
Yeah,
the obstacles
I
a lot of
am.
the
I
times.
am.
Yeah, same here. So
I think that was really the big piece of that glass ceiling. It was really me.
Yeah.
It wasn't the society. No, you can do that. It wasn't people at work saying, no, you can't. No, they were encouraging me.
Yeah,
It was me.
that's
was
so
me.
awesome.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for sharing it.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
again for being on the episode. I hope to have you again.
I'd love it.
Excellent. Thanks again, and
Thanks so much, Brent.
enjoy the rest of your day.
All right, you too. Thanks.
Thank you for joining us today on this curious roller coaster of life. If this is your stop, please exit peacefully and enjoy the rest of your day. If you're ready for another one, just push play. Just a final note before you go. Thank you, and thank you for feeling. The distillation and aging process is different for everyone. I'm not quite sure what you're ready for. Sip slowly and enjoy responsibly.
Baby says she's leaving if I don't stop drinking wine. So I switched to whiskey, now I'm feeling fine. Drinking that smooth whiskey. No more